The invitation to Melissa's engagement party came with a note attached. Please dress appropriately. This is an upscale venue. As if I didn't know how to dress for formal events. As if my graduate degree in hospitality management and 5 years running event venues meant nothing to my own family. I arrived at the country club wearing a conservative navy dress and pearls, only to be greeted by my mother's disapproving look. "Oh honey, that dress is a bit simple, isn't it?" Melissa specifically asked for elegant. My sister Melissa floated over in a $3,000 designer gown, her engagement ring catching the light like a disco ball. "Riley, you made it. Though I was worried you might not be able to afford the parking here." Her fiancé Connor smiled that practiced politician's smile he'd perfected in law school. "Riley, good to see you. Melissa tells me you're still working at that little event space downtown." "I manage Riverside events," I corrected. "We handle corporate conferences and private parties." "That's sweet," Melissa said patronizingly. "Connor and I are planning something much more sophisticated for our wedding. We're looking at estates and luxury resorts." During dinner, the conversation centered on their wedding plans. The guest list would include 200 people. The budget was approaching 6 figures. They'd hired a celebrity wedding planner who'd worked with professional athletes and movie stars. "We're trying to decide between 3 venues," Connor announced. Sterling Manor, the Rosewood Estate, or this incredible new place called Grandview Gardens. "Have you heard of it?" My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Grandview Gardens was the 50-acre estate I'd purchased 2 years ago and spent 18 months renovating into the most exclusive wedding venue in the state. "I've heard of it," I said carefully. "It's absolutely stunning," Melissa gushed. "The estate house is over 200 years old, and they have these gorgeous gardens with a lake view. But it's extremely exclusive. They only book 20 weddings per year." "And expensive," Connor added. $60,000 just for the venue rental." "Worth every penny though," Mom said admiringly. "If you can afford that kind of venue, you know you've really made it." My brother Jake laughed. "Riley, maybe you can learn something about event planning from their wedding planner. This is the big leagues." "I'm sure it's educational," I replied. After dinner, my father pulled me aside with his usual concerned expression. "Riley, I hope you're not feeling bad about not being able to afford this kind of celebration when your time comes." "I'm fine, Dad. Because Connor comes from a very successful family and Melissa's made good choices. It's natural that their wedding would be on a different scale than what you could manage." The assumption that I couldn't afford a luxury wedding venue was particularly ironic since I own the most expensive one they were considering. 3 weeks later, Melissa called with an update. "We've narrowed it down to 2 venues. Grandview Gardens and Sterling Manor. We're touring both this weekend." "That's exciting. Riley, I need to ask you something and I hope you won't take this the wrong way." Her tone shifted to that fake sweet register she used when delivering bad news. "Connor and I have been talking about the guest list." My stomach tightened. "Okay. We've decided to keep the wedding very intimate. Just immediate family and our closest friends. We're trying to create a specific atmosphere, you know? Sophisticated, elegant, the kind of event where everyone really belongs." "And I don't belong?" "It's not that you don't belong," she said quickly. "It's just that we're inviting people who share our lifestyle and interests. People who are comfortable in luxury settings. You might feel out of place." The message was clear. My family considered me too poor and unsophisticated for their wedding. "We hope you understand," she continued. "Maybe we can do a casual dinner afterward, just family." I understood perfectly. They were embarrassed by me. The build-up. After Melissa's disinvitation, my family's behavior became even more patronizing. Mom called weekly to check if I was doing okay financially. Jake offered to help me network with people in his circle who might need basic event planning services. Dad suggested I consider going back to school for an MBA to improve my career prospects. None of them knew that Riverside Events was just my public-facing business. What they didn't know was that I also owned 3 other properties under different LLCs: Sterling Manor, Rosewood Estate, and Grandview Gardens. Through careful investment and business acumen I'd inherited from my late grandmother, I'd quietly built a hospitality empire worth over $15 million. My family saw my modest apartment and practical car and assumed I was struggling. They didn't know about the investment properties, the stock portfolio, or the business ventures that generated passive income while I slept. I preferred it that way. Wealth made people treat you differently, and I wanted relationships based on who I was, not what I owned. But being excluded from my own sister's wedding because they thought I was too poor to fit in? That stung. 2 days after the disinvitation call, my assistant Jennifer buzzed my office. "Riley, there's a couple here for a venue tour. Melissa Chin and Connor Williams." I looked up from my laptop, processing the coincidence. "They're here for Grandview Gardens?" "Yes, they have a 2 p.m. appointment with our event coordinator." I glanced at my watch. It was 1:45. "Have Sarah handle the tour as planned. I'll be in my office if anything comes up." Through my office window, I watched Melissa and Connor arrive in Connor's BMW. They stood at the entrance for several minutes, clearly impressed by the colonial mansion's restored facade and manicured grounds. Sarah, my lead event coordinator, greeted them professionally and began the standard tour. I could see them through the windows as they moved from room to room, Melissa's excitement building with each space they viewed. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. "Riley, it's Sarah. The couple on tour wants to book immediately. They're asking about our premium package for next October." "What's their budget?" They said money's no object. They want the full estate for 3 days, premium catering, our exclusive floral arrangements, and the luxury bridal suite. We're looking at about $120,000 total. I walked to my window and watched Melissa practically bouncing with excitement as she explored the garden terrace. Connor was taking photos and making notes. They'd clearly fallen in love with the venue. "Schedule them for a consultation meeting," I said. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Should I mention you're the owner?" "Not yet." That evening, Melissa called me, barely able to contain her excitement. "Riley, we found our venue. It's absolutely perfect. Even more beautiful than the photos." "That's wonderful. Grandview Gardens is everything we dreamed of. The estate house, the gardens, the lake view. It's like something out of a fairy tale. And the event coordinator said they can accommodate all our requests." "Sounds expensive." "It is," she admitted. "But Connor's family is helping and we've saved up. This is our dream wedding and we're only doing it once." The irony was thick. They'd excluded me from their wedding because they assumed I couldn't afford to be around such luxury, while unknowingly planning to pay me $120,000 to host their celebration. Over the next month, Melissa updated me regularly on their planning progress. They'd booked Grandview Gardens for October 15th. They'd hired a celebrity florist. The guest list included Connor's law firm partners, Melissa's pharmaceutical sales colleagues, and various family friends, all people who could appreciate the sophistication of the venue. "I wish you could see it," she said during one call. "But maybe it's better this way. You'd probably feel uncomfortable around Connor's colleagues anyway." 3 weeks before the wedding, I received an unexpected call from my mother. "Riley, we need to talk about Melissa's wedding." "What about it?" "Some of the relatives are asking why you're not invited." Aunt Patricia specifically asked, and I didn't know what to tell her. "You could tell her the truth, that Melissa doesn't think I'm sophisticated enough for her wedding." "That's not fair. Melissa's just trying to create a certain atmosphere. An atmosphere that doesn't include her own sister." "Riley, maybe if you made more of an effort with your appearance and career, you'd fit in better at these events." The suggestion that I needed to improve myself to deserve a place at my sister's wedding was the final straw. The revelation. October 15th dawned crisp and clear. Perfect wedding weather. I arrived at Grandview Gardens at 7 a.m. to oversee the final preparations, wearing a tailored business suit and my grandmother's pearl necklace. The grounds looked spectacular. My team had spent 3 days transforming the estate into a wedding paradise. White roses and hydrangeas lined the ceremony aisle. Crystal chandeliers hung from the garden pavilion. The lake view terrace was set with gold-rimmed china and crystal glasses that caught the morning light. At 10 a.m. the wedding party arrived for photos. I watched from my office as Melissa emerged from her car in a stunning gown, her face glowing with happiness. Connor looked handsome in his custom tuxedo, flanked by his groomsmen in matching attire. My parents arrived shortly after, dressed in their finest clothes. Dad wore the suit he'd bought for Connor's law school graduation. Mom had her hair professionally styled and wore jewelry I'd never seen before. I felt a pang of sadness watching them. They looked proud and happy, celebrating their daughter's big day at what they considered the most prestigious venue in the area. They had no idea their other daughter owned everything they were admiring. At noon, guests began arriving. I recognized Connor's law partners, Melissa's co-workers, and various family friends. Everyone looked appropriately sophisticated and wealthy, exactly the crowd Melissa had wanted. Aunt Patricia arrived with Uncle Robert looking confused. I saw her speaking with Mom, gesturing questioningly, clearly asking where I was. The ceremony began at 2 p.m. From my office window, I watched Melissa walk down the aisle on Dad's arm, both of them beaming. The minister spoke about love, commitment, and family bonds. The irony wasn't lost on me. After the ceremony, guests moved to the garden terrace for cocktails. The celebration was exactly what Melissa had envisioned: elegant, sophisticated, and expensive. Everyone mingled with champagne glasses, admiring the venue and praising the couple's excellent taste. At 4 p.m. during the reception dinner, Sarah knocked on my office door. "Riley, we have a situation. The mother of the bride is asking to speak with management. She seems upset about something." Through my window I could see Mom talking animatedly with Dad, both looking concerned. Other guests were starting to notice the disturbance. "What's the issue?" "Apparently, someone told her that you should have been invited to the wedding, and she wants to speak with the venue owner about adding an additional guest." I straightened my jacket. "Send her to my office." 5 minutes later, Mom knocked on my door looking flustered and embarrassed. "Excuse me, are you the manager?" "I'm Joyce Chin, mother of the bride. I need to discuss a family situation." I stood up behind my desk, my hands folded professionally. "I'm the owner. How can I help you?" "The owner?" She looked confused. "I thought the owner was some businessman from the city." "The owner is Riley Chin," I said calmly. "Your daughter." The color drained from her face. She stared at me as if I'd spoken in a foreign language. "That's impossible," she whispered. I walked to the wall behind my desk and pointed to the framed ownership certificate. Grandview Gardens Estate LC. Purchased November 2021, renovated 2022 to 2023. Owner and CO, Riley Chin. Mom sank into the chair across from my desk. "You own this place?" "I own this place. I own Sterling Manor. I own Rosewood Estate. I own Riverside Events downtown. Your daughter just paid me $120,000 to host the wedding she excluded me from because she thought I wasn't sophisticated enough." The silence stretched between us as the reality settled in. "How?" she finally asked. "The same way any businessperson builds wealth. Investment, hard work, and smart financial decisions. While you all assumed I was struggling, I was building a hospitality empire. But your apartment, your car, are exactly what I choose to drive and where I choose to live. I prefer substance over appearance." Mom's face had gone from confusion to embarrassment to something approaching horror. "Riley, we didn't know." "You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed poverty because I wasn't flashy. You excluded me from family events because you thought I'd embarrass you." Through the window I saw the reception continue. Melissa cut the cake, Connor gave a toast. Guests clapped, unaware of the drama inside. "What do we do now?" Mom asked. "Go back and celebrate your daughter's wedding," I said. "Tomorrow, think about what this family really values." At the door, Mom asked, "Are you canceling the wedding?" "No. It's paid for. But maybe next time, treat all family members with equal respect." I watched as the reception carried on, unchanged to the guests but different for my family. Mom whispered to Dad and soon both scanned the estate with new eyes. Jake arrived, heard the truth, and his shock was clear. The wedding ended, but the family dynamic had changed forever. Melissa left for her honeymoon unaware. My parents drove home in silence. Jake called. "Riley, Mom told me. We treated you like charity." "Yes. And you were more successful than us?" "Success isn't only money, but yes." "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I wanted respect for who I am, not what I own. Without wealth, this family sees me as worthless." Jake had no answer. When Melissa returned, she called. "You own Grandview Gardens?" "I do." "And you let us book it without saying?" "You excluded me, saying I wasn't good enough." The irony amused me. "I didn't mean it like that." "You did. You were embarrassed by me." She asked, "Are we still family?" "That depends. Are you still embarrassed?" Months passed. Suddenly, everyone wanted my advice. Jake on real estate, Dad on retirement, Mom on country clubs. They valued my money, not me. I stayed in touch but on my terms. Now at dinners they asked about my work with respect. I was included in events without conditions. Still the damage lingered. Melissa and I mended things but never fully. She had to face that the sister she excluded owned the venue she thought was too good for me. 6 months later an invitation came. Connor's friend wanted me and my venue for their wedding. I smiled. Business thrived, family was complicated, and I learned the truth. Being valued isn't the same as being valuable. The sister, once too unsophisticated, was now the woman everyone wanted as host. And that was justice enough.